October 30th, George Fox.
When our enemies fall, kindness helps them to stand back up. In the 17th century, the Church of England, who were also called Anglicans, taught that only Anglicans could be saved. George Fox disagreed in public and taught that other denominations could be saved as well. This not only made the ministers angry, but made the government furious. They quickly tossed him into prison on minor charges of blasphemy, and even though he was a peaceful man, he ended up in the same place as criminals, the house of correction. Knowing God was with him, Fox accepted his sentence, but he wondered how he would be able to minister if he was in prison. Alone in the cell, cold and dark, Fox knew his stay would be anything but pleasant. Many inmates viewed him with a hateful eye. One person who treated him the worst was the warden, Thomas Sharman, who hated the things the preacher said. When Sharman passed Fox in his cell, the warden said hurtful things about the preacher, as if wanting to bring him extra harm. But Fox would not respond with cruelty. He wanted to obey God and treat his enemies with goodness, because that is what God led him to do. Day by day, Sharman taunted Fox, but Fox answered in kindness. He knew in his heart that God's love was more powerful than any man's hate. But one day, as Fox was walking around his cell to stretch his legs, he heard a dreadful noise coming from down the jail's hallway. He hurried to the edge of the door and pressed his face against the cold, hard surface to hear what was happening. The dreadful noises were coming from Sharman. Panic had overwhelmed the warden, and he battled thoughts that terrified him. He rambled like a madman, searching for some sort of relief. "I have seen the day of judgment," Sharman wailed, "and I saw George there, and I was afraid of him, because I had done him so much wrong and spoken so much against him to the priests and professors and to the justices and in taverns and in alehouses." Fox felt astonished. Had the warden dreamed about him? Had God made Sharman realize his mistreatment of Fox was a sin? Fox waited, curious as to what Sharman would eventually say to him. As night fell, the warden approached and entered Fox's cell. But instead of his usual taunts, he offered an apology. "I have been like a lion against you," Sharman began, his voice shaking with guilt. "But now I come like a lamb, like the jailer that came to Paul and Silas, trembling." Fox listened as the warden spoke with humility. How was it the man who had been determined to taunt him was now full of apology and regret? Surely God was at work. Sharman asked Fox if he could stay with him in the cell for a little while. Fox reminded Sharman that he was in control of the cell and he could do as he wished. But the warden wanted to make sure Fox was all right with him staying. Fox agreed, knowing as a minister he could somehow help, and they sat together as Sharman shared how he had been plagued with guilt over how he had treated Fox. Fox listened and ministered as the warden spoke through the night, and Sharman did not leave until morning. Though Fox was not removed from the prison immediately, he was granted some leave to walk a mile on his own. Sharman eventually confessed to Fox that one of the judges who had imprisoned him had also been plagued by guilt, and this was his way of offering Fox a chance to escape. But Fox remained in prison so as not to cause more trouble until he could be released legally. While there, he continued to minister to other prisoners and to local people who came to prison, including Sharman's own sister. Fox continued ministering in the prison for a year until he was released.
Having super strength has its perks around the house, like this.
But my powers don't help me overcome my struggle with pornography. The problem with quitting porn is that it doesn't matter how strong you are. It won't work if you try alone. Go to CovenantEyes.com today and sign up with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Being free of porn is worth it.
God tells us in 1 Peter 3:9, do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. Think about people who have mistreated you. Here's a challenge for you. Take 5 minutes today and write out a prayer for each of them. When our enemies fall, kindness helps them stand back up.
Man, it's good to see you. I know you can see me and I can't see you. Yeah, I've got a little bit of frog in my throat here. What do you think? But I didn't want to miss this at all. October 30th, our story here, George Fox. What a powerful story. As I listened to the story and narrated it, and I've read the story several times, and thought about the challenge, and I thought about the real question for us. And so here's what I'm just going to lay out. You know, all of us say we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. It just sounds so good. It's almost got a romantic, poetic. I just want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Really? How many want to be the hands and feet of Jesus when God calls you to minister to some stinkers? People that are just downright mean. People that may despise you, may not like you, may hold a grudge. I mean, we could go through everything, couldn't we? Because when I thought about this, and I thought about the issue of the hands and feet of Jesus, Jesus himself, to the people that wanted to do him the greatest harm, to the people that didn't believe, to the people that one day cheered him as the king, and 3 days later would rather have him crucified. And yet he stayed committed. And I listened to the story of George Fox. There's a lot of times we can find ourselves in what I call these divine appointments. Sometimes it's a short one. I met somebody on a bus, or this divine appointment. But sometimes the divine appointment is a longer period of time. Maybe it's working for someone that is not a Christian. In fact, in these days, non-Christian, you're more likely to find anti-Christian in many cases. What if God's calling you to be the hands and feet of Jesus to someone that is blatantly anti-Christian and to represent God well? So here'd be my challenge. Take a look at your life and don't pick out the easy ones. Look at your life where you live, work, and play. Is there someone there, just by showing kindness, just by living like God calls us to live, you would say, this is the person God's called me to be the hands and feet of Jesus? And like George Fox, you don't know what God's going to do with that. You just don't know. And you may not see the result in your lifetime. So my suggestion is, be the hands and feet of Jesus in the toughest of places, and don't demand of God that you show you the answer very quickly so you'll feel good about yourself. Chuck Stecker here, Executive Director of A Chosen Generation. God bless you and have a great day.